To move to Professor Reza Eshraghi, and he's going to talk to us about the birth of new politics in Iran. Please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good people. I'm sure that you all had other things, other options to do at this afternoon, and I really appreciate that you decided to choose and come at this time. So there are two ways of looking at Iran and analyzing the Iranian politics. And I'm going to use in the most simplest American, pop cultural way, two movies actually to represent these two ways of looking. One is looking at Iran politics like the movie of Hunger Games. And I'm going to explain it for those who haven't seen it. So Hunger Games, there is only one person, one man who runs the show, who selects who's going to be the actor, who selects who's going to play. He is the one who decides actually who's going to win. He's the one who's going to decide who actually going to be eliminated from the scene. That's the way that many actually of Iranian analysts, both inside Iran as well as the foreigners who like to write and talk about Iran, see Iran politics. They see a man, his name is Ayatollah Khamenei. At the very top, Ayatollah Khamenei is the man. He's the man who runs all the puppet. He decides who comes to power. He decides who should actually be obliterated and get out of the power. They see him as the one who actually ran the election as a sham, as a show. That was exactly what happened, right before the June 2012 election. We heard a lot from many different people that, oh, we already know that who's going to be elected. That's just a sham. This is not an election. Washington Post editorial actually with almost certainty wrote that Rouhani is not actually going to elected because he's not going to allow to be elected. Many actually of Green Movement leaders outside of the country, those who actually went outside of the country, asked people not to participate in the election, boycott the election. Many people said that the turnout actually at the election is going to be very low. All turned out to be very surprising. About 72% of the people actually attended. They voted. 60% at, for example, Kurdistan, which the Kurdish parties who were actually fighting against the Iranian regime asked all people not to go to the polls. They actually participated, had one of the highest actually rates of voting for Rouhani. So what happened? This unthinkable actually victory for Rouhani who had never expected it. What happened? If you want to look at the Hunger Game way, well, then suddenly you're going to make it that, oh, then Ayatollah Khamenei decided. It's a little bit hard actually to argue with that mentality, and I'm going to give you an example. This who actually a British philosopher of ethics once made here. His name is. Assume I'm a student and I feel that my professors, not these people who are sitting next to me, are actually going to plotting and killing me. And everyone tries to actually convince me, telling me that, no, they are nice, nobody really wants to kill you, nobody has any problem with you. And they try to show me some evidence, so to take me to actually to the most nicest people that you can imagine. They are very mild, they give me very good grades, to show me that, hey, everybody loves you, everybody likes you, nobody wants to really harm you. But I said, no, look at, this is actually the very diabolical, cunning way. I know there is a plot behind it. I know it. They are doing it to actually, do something later to me, to make me feel comfortable, and then they're going to execute their plot. So you can always actually look at the politics of Iran, seeing Khamenei as the only one who has the power and runs the show. And then, of course, we can argue that then that was, again, his decision to surprise everyone, to let Rouhani be. There is another way of actually looking at the politics. And I'm going to use the series, the famous series Games of Thrones, as an example, versus the Hunger Games. So in Games of Thrones, there is a king, and there are other, lots of other oligarchs, the people who have power. And there is a web of relationship. There is a web of power, balance of power. Everybody's fighting, against some other people. There are occasions that some people actually ally, they form a coalition, they fight against someone else, and you see that these coalitions are sometimes more stable, sometimes actually not that much stable. Well, the only problem with Iranian politics, comparing it to the Games of Thrones, is it's not that much exciting because there are no dragons in the Iranian politics. But if we look at it that way, then we can say that Khamenei is not a person who has the power in his absolute position, but he's actually, he's the one who is actually affects other players, but also sometimes being affected by other players. And I think that very unthinkable victory that happened in June of 2012 gives us a very good example of this very new mode of politicking in Iran. It shows actually for the very first time that other players can actually maturely play and force Khamenei to accept the very result of that game. After all, even in the Hunger Game, at the very end of the movie, some of you who have watched it, that even the player had some say, can change the game. So what happened? For the very first time, we see actually this very rare coalition between, and Dr. Safi mentioned that, between first reformists, led by President Khatami, former President Khatami, between centrists, who were led by, again, former President Hashemi Rafsanjani, but also progressive principalists, moderate conservatives, represented by Ali Akbar Nater Nouri, who was the former Speaker of the House. So the very fact that these very three factions in the Islamic Republic of Iran, for the first time, came together, and with a lot of problems, there was a lot going on in the middle, but they decided to actually collaborate with each other. At the very top, the leaders decided. At the very bottom, people on the ground, they actually forced them, they pushed them to make this alliance. That gives us some hope that the Iranian politics is doing as well, at least, as politics should do in other places. It gives us an example that at least people can maturely play, they can grasp that moment, they can actually take advantage of the momentum and do something that is right. So, President Rouhani, in his very election campaign, actually used this word, prudency, tadbir, as one of his actually very important campaign slogans. And prudency actually has a meaning. It has actually a very philosophic background in the Western philosophy. And by prudency, I think I can liken it to this game of backgammon, which, we Persians are proud. We feel that, backgammon is actually, we are the ones who created backgammon. So many people like to, liken politics to chess. I don't like that, because in every chess you can always, predict actually the next move. There is always a perfect move. But in backgammon, you actually throw the dice, but then it's up to you to make the best play at that moment with the dice that are given, the numbers that are given to you. And that's exactly what happened. Everybody was frustrated, everybody was disappointed. Many people were thinking that there is not going to be any chance, any opening. Hashemi Rafsanjani was disqualified from actually participating in the elections. And then suddenly they feel that, oh, there is a glimmer of hope coming from that very tunnel. Let's just go and grab it. And that's exactly what happened. So that's exactly the meaning of prudence. And that's exactly the meaning of prudency that Rouhani talks about. So this gives us a little bit of hope that at least if we look at the larger respect, putting Iran in this historical retrospect, comparing it to actually other countries who have gone through this very long process of democratization, at least we can see that there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of hope that not in the short term, but in the longer term, at least people have realized how to do politics. Thank you.
Thank you.